What is happening, Magnus sites? Looks like we got some news on Spider-Man 4. Y'all saw the title. Let's get it.
What is going on, everybody?
Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder, where we talk all things Marvel and MCU, and of course, the Spider-Man universe over at Sony as well. And it actually looks like Sony might be doing somewhat of a reboot of their Spider-Man universe, and this does include a new Spider-Man, which is quite interesting to think about, and we'll definitely talk in detail about this in this video. But also, at the same time, it looks like Marvel Studios has some pretty big plans that are already in the works for their next Spider-Man trilogy with Tom Holland, which is great news, but it does seem like the studios really are keeping their universes separate. It doesn't look like we are going to be getting Tom Holland Spider-Man in the Sony Spider-Man universe, but he is strictly sticking to the MCU. After all, the Spider-Man No Way Home post-credit scene did set up a new Venom, not Tom Hardy's Venom from the Sony universe, but a new Venom in the MCU, which also implies that a new Spider-Man should be coming to the Sony universe as well. But what's really interesting is that Sony might actually be doing a complete reset of their entire universe as we know it, and it all starts with Madam Web. So, as you can see, lots to talk about in this video, so let's dive into it. And of course, if you're new and you want to stay up to date on all things Marvel and Spider-Man, be sure to subscribe. So, let's start off with the MCU's Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, and Marvel and Sony's plans for the next trilogy. Now, to start off, first and foremost, if you are not aware, after Spider-Man No Way Home was released, Kevin Feige, the president of Marvel Studios, and Amy Pascal, an executive producer over at Sony, came out and told us that they were already working on the next Spider-Man film with Tom Holland. They also specifically stated that the only reason they told us that was so we don't all freak out and question whether or not Spider-Man is actually going to remain in the MCU or go back over to the Sony Spider-Man universe. That's what happened after Spider-Man Far From Home. We all didn't know if Spider-Man was going to remain in the MCU, so they're just coming out and stating already, yes he is, and we are working on the next films. And a new report states that they have already begun these plans. In fact, these plans actually prevented a Spider-Man cameo in She-Hulk, which is a pretty big bummer because the fact that we could have gotten a Spider-Man cameo in She-Hulk with a Daredevil cameo is pretty disappointing, especially if they could have all actually been together. Imagine seeing Daredevil and Spider-Man together with She-Hulk. That would have been pretty dang cool, and the She-Hulk writers actually wanted this to happen. However, they were not allowed to use Spider-Man in the She-Hulk series. This report is coming from TheDirect.com in an exclusive interview with She-Hulk series creator and head writer Jessica Gao. And in this interview, she states that there were a lot of characters that were from the comics that they couldn't use because of either a rights issue or there were a few times where it was because Marvel had something to do with it. But in this interview, they actually indirectly confirm that Marvel and Sony have already begun their plans for the next Spider-Man film. This is what Jessica Gao had to say, as far as cameos were concerned. She said, there were a lot of characters from the comics. We wanted a lot of the comics for characters for fun situations where we could bring in like a character and think of like funny reasons why they would be in legal trouble. But there were a lot of characters that were from the comics that we couldn't use either because of a rights issue, or there were a few times where it was because Marvel, all they would say is that they had other plans. That's all they would tell us. And then we tried very, very hard to poke and prod and get a little bit more information. Of course, they wouldn't tell us. Now, as far as what character or characters that Marvel was talking about, she goes on to say, but I will say, the one MCU character that really bummed out a lot of the writers in our room that we couldn't use was Spider-Man, and anyone involved around like the Spider-Man universe, because we had so many Spider-Man fans in the room. So, the She-Hulk writers wanted to bring in Spider-Man, but were super bummed out when Marvel told them that they couldn't. Now, there are two reasons for this, and one is that Sony simply wouldn't let them. But that's probably not it. Sony has let Marvel use Spider-Man and other properties before. Properties that weren't specifically Spider-Man films. Granted, they were big movies like Captain America Civil War, Infinity War, and Avengers Endgame. But keep in mind that Marvel Studios themselves and Kevin Feige does have a lot of pull with what Spider-Man does. If Kevin Feige thought it would be good to have Spider-Man and She-Hulk, he would make it happen. But if we look back to what she said, it's very clear that Marvel Studios had other plans for Spider-Man. Spider-Man. She said that there were a few times where they wanted a certain character, but they couldn't use them because Marvel, all they would say is that they had other plans. And that's all they would tell them, and then they tried very, very hard to poke and prod and get more information, but Marvel would not tell them. Since all of the writers really wanted Spider-Man the most, it seems like, I'm assuming that the character that they were poking about, that Marvel Studios had other plans for, is Spider-Man. Which sucks that he can't be in She-Hulk, but is also good news at the same time. In a state where we don't really know what's happening right now with Spider-Man 4, it's good to know that Marvel and Sony at least have somewhat of a plan. And you would hope they do, because Secret Wars is not that far away. It's 3 years away, which means there's probably only time for one more Spider-Man film, maybe two if they want to get one out really soon, to take place before Secret Wars happens, because Spider-Man is going to be a part of Secret Wars. We've already seen the 3 Spider-Men together. It's the perfect opportunity to bring them together again, and add even more Spider-Man, not necessarily variants, but Spider-Man like Miles Morales. And they could even throw in characters like Spider-Man 2099. Plus, not to mention, they could link the Venom symbiote to Secret Wars, as that is the first time in the comics where we actually see Spider-Man in his black symbiote suit. And Marvel made it pretty clear that the next Spider-Man film should, according to the post-credit scene of No Way Home, be about Venom. And I think Marvel Studios probably only has time for one more Spider-Man film before we get to Secret Wars. After all, we know we're not getting a Spider-Man film in 2022. We most likely won't get one in 2023 since we really haven't heard anything about the movie yet. That leaves 2024 or early 2025 to do one Spider-Man film before Secret Wars. Actually, before the Kang Dynasty, because if that's going to be an Avengers film, which it is, Spider-Man should be a part of the Avengers. So I hope he shows up then. Now, as far as Sony's Spider-Man universe is concerned, it does look like they are indeed getting a new Spider-Man, which is a very, very interesting move. But basically what we know so far is that the movie Madam Web, which is a Spider-Man universe-based movie, is going to include a baby Peter Parker. According to a report from the Cosmic Circus, Sony, for Madam Web, has cast Emma Roberts to play Mary Parker, the mother of Peter Parker. And based off of what we know, Mary Parker is supposed to be pregnant in Madam Web, which means that she will have a baby Peter Parker. Now, if this is true, this means that Sony will indeed be getting a new Spider-Man, but way down the future, unless they decide to do somewhat of a time jump in Madam Web. Now, they can explore the multiverse in this movie as well. After all, in the comics, Madam Web is a cosmic being, and she can travel between universes. And in the comics, she teaches Spider-Man and other Spider-Man very important lessons. So this baby Peter Parker could simply be in another universe, or Sony could be planning to kind of just start over. Morbius failed very, very badly recently, and we're only getting one more Venom film. So a reboot of the entire Spider-Man universe over at Sony could be happening, which could be a good thing or could be a really bad thing. But let me know what you think about this in the comments down below. Do you think they should reboot, or do you think they should just try to build off what they already have? Let me know down below. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to stay up to date on all things relating to Spider-Man and Marvel. For live updates, you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Wolf Wolf.
Okay, so that's the 4th Spider-Man. I'm sitting here like, wait, what? I'm like, now it's overkill. What did you plan on making, I don't understand. Unless a future one was going to come from somewhere and make a quick cameo, or I'd like to see Spider-Man Noir. Definitely would love to see him again. Live action, though. Him or Miles Morales. But, okay. Cool. Thank you for filling me in on that, Cosmic. Make sure you go follow him. Hit the like button, subscribe, and share over here. And I will see you later. 10 million subscribers. All that rhyme, hate to play at the game.